My name is Laura Ashley. I never believed in miracles, and I certainly didn't believe in the afterlife. But now, I'm here to tell you that everything I thought I knew was wrong, everything. Before this, I was a typical 42-year-old woman, navigating life like most of us do. I was a mother of two, a wife, and a schoolteacher. I loved my kids, but I always felt like there was something missing. My days were consumed by the mundane, and I spent most of my evenings scrolling through social media or watching TV shows that helped me escape the reality I couldn't change. I wasn't religious. I was more of a spiritual skeptic. Sure, I believed in something, but I didn't think much of it. What was heaven anyway? I didn't have time to think about it. Life was about surviving, and surviving was enough. But everything changed in an instant. It was an ordinary Tuesday. The sun was shining, and the air was crisp with the hint of spring. I remember the smell of burnt toast wafting from the kitchen as my teenage daughter Emily scrambled to get ready for school. My son Luke was still in his pajamas, playing on the floor. Life felt mundane, the same as any other day. The day that would change everything had already begun, but I couldn't have known. I'd been feeling off for a while, but I attributed it to the pressures of work, being a mother, and the general grind of life. My body felt heavy, my chest tight, but I pushed it aside. I was getting older, after all. Maybe it was just stress. I wasn't in the habit of listening to my body when it whispered. I only paid attention when it screamed, and that day, it screamed in a way I'll never forget. By lunchtime, the heaviness in my chest became an undeniable pressure. I felt faint. My hands were clammy, and there was a ringing in my ears. My mind raced. Is this it? I wondered. My thoughts immediately went to my family, my kids, my ex-husband, everyone I cared about. There was no time to worry about myself. There was only time to make sure everything was okay. I grabbed my phone with trembling hands and dialed 911. My voice shook as I spoke to the dispatcher, trying to explain that I thought I was having a heart attack. The words felt surreal coming out of my mouth. "Please hurry," I gasped. My body felt alien to me. It was as if I was no longer in control. Then the pain came, a sharp searing sensation that coursed through my chest and spread like fire to my arms. My knees buckled, and I collapsed on the kitchen floor. Everything became a blur after that. I don't know how long I was out, but I remember hearing the paramedics. I remember the cold, metallic sound of the ambulance doors opening, the rushing footsteps, and their calm, authoritative voices. There was an intense, clinical urgency around me. "We're losing her," I heard one of them say. It's funny, because I don't recall feeling fear. Not in the way I would have expected. In fact, I felt calm. Almost as though the world was suddenly moving in slow motion, while I remained still, hovering somewhere outside myself. I could see my own body lying on the floor, lifeless, while the paramedics worked furiously to revive me. I could see my daughter Emily, her face pale and filled with terror. I wanted to reach out to hold her, to tell her it was okay, but I couldn't. I was no longer in my body. Then, something extraordinary happened. At first, it was just a sensation, like stepping out of a dream. There was no pain, no fear. I felt weightless, free. I could see a light in the distance, not blinding but soft, radiant, inviting. It called to me like a beacon in the dark. I didn't even question it. There was no hesitation. I didn't look back at my lifeless body or my daughter's face. I simply floated towards it. As I moved closer, the light seemed to open up, engulfing me in warmth, in love, in a sense of peace I couldn't have imagined in my wildest dreams. The light was not just around me, it was inside me. I felt whole in a way I had never felt before. The heaviness I'd carried for so many years was gone. My thoughts became clearer, my mind sharper. I knew I was safe. And then I saw him. Jesus. He stood before me, not in the way I had always imagined, but in a way that was more real than anything I had ever known. He was not just a figure I recognized from paintings or stories. He was life itself. His presence exuded love in a way words could not explain. It was as though every ounce of his being was dedicated to one purpose, to help me remember who I truly was. Laura, he said, his voice not like the voices of the world, but a vibration that went deep into my soul. It wasn't a sound I could hear with my ears. It was a frequency I could feel. You've come far. I felt something inside me stir at the sound of his voice. It was as though every fiber of my being recognized him instantly, like a child returning home after a long journey. I'm scared, I whispered, my voice trembling with emotion. You need not be, he replied. His eyes, those deep, all-knowing eyes, filled me with a calm I couldn't explain. I wanted to say more, but the words escaped me. I simply stood there, absorbing his presence, feeling the love he offered. Am I dead? I asked, after what felt like an eternity. His expression softened, his gaze full of compassion. Yes, but you are not lost. Jesus reached out, and without a word, I followed him. We moved together through a vast, expansive realm. The surroundings were indescribable. Colors I had never seen filled the air. It wasn't just light, it was a living energy that surrounded everything. The space seemed infinite, yet intimate, as if I was both a part of it and a spectator at the same time. This, he said, is where souls come to learn, to grow, and to heal. He took my hand, and together, we floated toward 3 distinct realms, each one radically different from the others. The first realm we entered was bathed in a soft, golden light. The air was filled with the sound of laughter, pure, unadulterated joy. There were people here, souls, and their faces glowed with peace. They moved in harmony, working together in a shared purpose, creating, helping, loving. The energy was vibrant, and every soul seemed to be radiating love, compassion, and happiness. It felt like I was witnessing something sacred, a place where love had never been corrupted. These are the righteous, Jesus said. Souls who lived their lives in alignment with love, truth, and faith. Here, they continue to grow in wisdom and grace. I could feel the warmth of the love here, a kind of collective energy that filled the entire space. It was so real, so tangible, that it was as if I could reach out and touch it. We moved to the second realm. Here, the energy was quieter, but no less profound. The souls here were not as bright as those in the first realm, but there was a different kind of peace. Some were alone, others in groups, sitting or standing in meditation, studying their lives. I felt the intense focus of these souls as they worked to understand themselves and the world they left behind. These are the seekers, Jesus explained. Souls who are in the process of learning, of healing. They are reviewing their lives, understanding their choices, and preparing for what comes next. There was a sense of growth here, a sense of potential. It wasn't a place of punishment, but a place of progress, of lessons learned and lessons still to be discovered. The third realm was the most difficult for me to witness. It was dark, not in the way we understand darkness, but in a way that felt disconnected. The souls here seemed confused, lost, wandering aimlessly, caught in cycles of regret, fear, and pain. They weren't suffering in the way we imagine torment, but there was an emotional heaviness, a kind of spiritual stagnation. These are the souls who have not yet embraced love, Jesus said softly. They are stuck in the fear of what they've done or what they've left undone. But even here, redemption is possible. I wanted to reach out to them to help them, but I understood that this was their journey. This realm was not eternal. There was still hope for those here, if they chose it. As we moved between realms, I couldn't help but ask questions. I had so many questions about the afterlife, about what happened to us after death. I had always heard bits and pieces of stories, but I had never understood them fully. I didn't expect the answer he gave me, though. "Laura," he said, "there are stories you have forgotten, truths buried beneath time. I will show you." In an instant, I was shown a vision of a world I didn't recognize. I saw giants, beings of enormous size and power. They walked the earth, and their presence caused the very ground to tremble beneath them. These were the Nephilim, the ancient giants born of divine and human unions. I saw their arrogance, their pride, and the chaos they brought to the world. They were not evil, but they were misguided. They were a mistake, Jesus explained. Born of pride, they sought power rather than love. Their existence caused pain, but even they had a chance for redemption. The image shifted, and I saw the flood, the great flood that had wiped out the Nephilim. But even in their destruction, I saw mercy. They were not beyond salvation. The Creator's love, even for them, was vast and infinite. "Why are you showing me this?" I asked, feeling overwhelmed. "To understand your role," he said, "the Nephilim story is not just a tale of the past. It holds a lesson for all souls, a reminder of the dangers of pride and separation from divine love. The world you know is filled with many struggles, but you must remember that everything is part of a larger plan. Even in your pain and your confusion, there is always a way back to the light." I felt a deep sense of connection to the Nephilim then, as if their fate, their struggle, mirrored something within myself. Was I not also struggling with my own fears, my own doubts? Could it be that, just like them, I too had been separated from love, clinging to my own pride or misunderstandings? The vision faded, and we were once again in the realm of learning. But now, I look at it differently. The souls around me were not so different from me. We were all on a journey of growth, seeking to understand and reconnect with the divine. Some had further to go, but none were beyond redemption. After showing me the vision of the Nephilim, Jesus began to speak more directly about the essence of what I was experiencing. "The key to everything, Laura, is love," he said. "It is the foundation of all creation. Love is what binds the universe together, and it is the force that will guide you home, no matter how far you may wander." I was mesmerized by his words. It felt like each syllable was a seed, planting a new understanding in my heart. "Love?" I asked, almost in disbelief. "Isn't it just something we talk about? Something we hear about in sermons or in stories?" His eyes softened, and he smiled. "Love is not just a concept, Laura. It is the very energy of life. Every thought, every action, every choice you make is either aligned with love or aligned with fear. And it is these choices that shape your journey, not just here, but in every lifetime." I thought back to the choices I had made in my life, the times when I had acted out of fear or self-interest, the moments when I had withheld love from others or from myself. I realized for the first time how much I had been living in fear, thinking that love was something I had to earn or that it was somehow conditional. "How do we find this love?" I asked, my voice trembling. He took my hand again, and I felt a surge of warmth course through me. "It is within you," he said gently. "You were born with it. It is your true essence, your soul's nature. But you must allow yourself to experience it, to open your heart. Only then will you know the true freedom that comes from love." As he spoke these words, I suddenly found myself standing before a mirror, not a physical mirror, but one that seemed to reflect the deepest parts of my soul. I could see my life playing out before me, as though I were reliving every moment. The small moments, the seemingly insignificant ones, were there too, the moments I had long forgotten, the ones that seemed so trivial but now held such weight. I saw my childhood, my parents' love, my early years of innocence, and the joy I felt playing in the garden with my siblings. I saw the moments of pain too, the arguments, the isolation I sometimes felt, and the misunderstandings that had built walls between me and those I loved. But what struck me the most was how I had lived my adult life. I saw the stress and the busyness, the ways I had pushed people away, the fear that had driven so many of my decisions. I saw my reluctance to open up, my desire to control things, and the times I had ignored the deeper calls of my soul. Jesus was beside me as I watched these images unfold. "Do you see?" he asked softly. "This is the life you lived, but it is not all there is. This is just one chapter. What matters most now is not the past, but what you do with the present moment. You can choose to love, to forgive, to heal." The weight of the truth of his words hit me like a wave. I had lived so much of my life in fear, in doubt, in resistance to change. But the past was no longer relevant. I had the power to shift the course of my future, to align my choices with love and compassion. I didn't know how much time had passed, but I began to feel a pull, an urge to return to my earthly life. My connection to Jesus, to the realms of light, was powerful, but there was something else I could sense, the desire to return to my family, to my children, and to the world I had left behind. "Is it time for me to go back?" I asked quietly. I wasn't sure if I was ready to leave this beautiful place of love and understanding. He nodded, his eyes filled with compassion. "You still have work to do, Laura. Your journey is not finished. You have much to share, much to give. But know this, the love you seek is always with you. It never leaves you. And when you return, you will be different. You will see the world through new eyes." I felt a pang of reluctance. I had found such peace here, such clarity. Could I really go back to the chaos of my life? Could I face the struggles and the challenges that awaited me? Jesus smiled at me, his expression full of knowing. "You are never alone, Laura. Remember that. And the love you now understand will guide you through everything." And then, just like that, I was back. It felt like being shoved into a body that wasn't quite mine anymore. I could feel my physical form again, the weight of it pressing down on me. Everything around me began to blur. The light dimmed, and I felt myself being drawn away, back into my body, back into the world I had left behind. But I didn't feel fear, nor regret. I felt an overwhelming sense of peace. I had learned something profound, that would stay with me for the rest of my life. I don't know how long I was gone. Was it seconds? Hours? Days? All I know is that I woke up with a new perspective, a new understanding of life, death, and the infinite love that exists beyond this physical realm. When I opened my eyes, I was surrounded by the faces of doctors and nurses, their eyes wide with concern. I felt the sharp sting of the oxygen mask on my face, the beep of machines monitoring my vitals. But I wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid of death anymore. I had seen beyond it, and what I had seen was love, a love that transcends everything, a love that waits for each of us patiently until we are ready to return to it. The doctors told me that I had died on the table. My heart had stopped, and I had been clinically dead for several minutes before they managed to bring me back. But I wasn't the same person I had been before. I wasn't the same woman who had been rushing through life, consumed by fear and doubt. I had been changed. I had been touched by the divine. I looked around at the faces of the medical staff, and for the first time in my life, I truly saw them. I saw their humanity, their struggles, their fears, and I felt a deep, overwhelming compassion for them. I saw my family in a new light too. My children, my husband, my friends, each of them was a soul on their own journey, struggling, learning, growing. And I knew with every fiber of my being that love was the key to everything. In the days and weeks that followed, I began to change. It wasn't a sudden transformation, but a gradual shift, a slow awakening. I began to reconnect with my family, not out of obligation but out of love. I started to forgive, to heal, and to understand that the pain of the past was not a weight I had to carry anymore. I shared my experience with those close to me. Some of them didn't understand, but that didn't matter. What mattered was that I had seen the truth, and it had set me free. I still face challenges, of course. Life is never without its struggles. But now, I face them with a heart open to love and a soul guided by the light of truth. I understand now that my purpose is not just to survive, but to thrive, to love, and to guide others to the same understanding. I live each day with a sense of gratitude, knowing that I am never alone. As I continue my journey on this earthly plane, I carry with me the profound lessons I learned during my near-death experience. I no longer fear death, for I know it is simply another part of the eternal cycle of life. I know that my soul is eternal, and that love is the force that binds us all together. I also know that the world is full of suffering, and that many people are still living in the darkness of fear. But I also know that love is the answer. It always has been. And as long as I live, I will share that truth with others, because that is the gift that was given to me when I crossed to the other side. In the end, death is not something to be feared. It is simply a doorway to a deeper understanding of who we truly are. And love, the love that flows through everything, will always be there to guide us home.